Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by and welcome to the Greenlight SEO and PPC 101 webinar. During the presentation, all participants will be in a listen-only mode. Afterwards, we will conduct a question-and-answer session. At that time, if you have a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. You may also use the chat feature located in the lower left corner of your screen. If you need to reach an operator at any time, please press the *0. As a reminder, this conference is being recorded Wednesday, April 11th, 2012. I would now like to turn the conference over to Mr. Jack Adams, Senior Search Manager with Greenlight. Please go ahead, sir.
Hello, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us today. Just to start, we're going to start with the SEO introduction, and that should take about 20 minutes to 25 minutes, and I'll be handing over to Paul to go through the introduction to PPC. So to begin with SEO, the agenda we're going to look at today contains a little bit about how search engines work, a little bit about basic accessibility and how search engines access our websites, the keywords and the content they find when they get through to our websites, and the importance of links and link building in SEO, as I'm sure you've all heard a lot about. But before we move into those, we're first going to discuss exactly why SEO is important, and why you're on the call today, and why we do this as a business. So the importance of high rankings. I'm not going to dwell on this too long today because I'm sure we're all acutely aware half an hour isn't a particularly long time to really get acquainted with SEO. But if you just look at the graph on this particular slide at the moment, you'll see what this shows is click-through rates across different ranking positions from a myriad of studies conducted throughout the years. So on the left-hand side of this graph is a percentage click-through rate as to how many percentage of users after searching click on a particular position. These particular positions are shown on the bottom of the graph, and each particular bar represents a different study. So you can see there's 4 studies here, and all of them have fairly consistent data. And what that data essentially shows is that the higher you rank, the closer to position 1, the much greater your click-through rate is. In particular, between position 1 and 2, despite it only being one place different, there is around double the actual click-through rate increase for position 1. While the last study was conducted in 2008, and it's important to understand that obviously with recent developments in search, things like universal search, seeing more news, images, videos blended into results, these, and also within different verticals, there are various nuances around click-through rates. This is a general behavior of users naturally to follow their logic and click the results that appear higher. And as you can see on that bottom takeaway there, around 87% of users after doing a search will click on a result on that first page. So that really emphasises the difference between being on the first page of results to being on the second. Moving into which search engines we tend to focus on, in the UK it's very much a Google-based market. Although Google and Bing now powering Yahoo search as well, while they work with very, very similar algorithms, given that Google controls 90% of the market in the UK, that's very much where we focus our particular SEO efforts here. And if you move into a worldwide sphere, you'll see that across Europe, UK, Spain, Italy, Germany and France, that Google dominance is really quite prevalent, with at least 90% in all of those countries. Even in the US, Google still has around 2/3 of the market, and the only real exceptions to Google's dominance are places like Russia and China, which have their own search engines, Yandex and Baidu respectively, that control the lion's share of the market there. But you can really see just how Google essentially dominates the search market, and exactly how much revenue they make from search, and how much they gear that towards improving their algorithms on a very regular basis to ensure that they stay at the top of those market shares. So exactly how search engines work in a very stripped down process to understand what they go through when they're trying to fill their indexes with data. They typically start with crawling. So this is how they go about the web finding new, fresh content. They'll start with a single page. They'll find all the links on that page and follow all those links to all the new pages that are being linked to. This process is a never-ending, ongoing process, and you can quickly see how it becomes to be called the web, and how these bots that search engines use are called spiders. In this process, search engines have to crawl hundreds of thousands of web pages every day, and it takes tens of thousands of computers all working in tandem to be able to power this. To do this effectively and to keep a very up-to-date index is such an intense task. It's one of the reasons why there are so few high-profile search engines out there, and why there are so few competitors to Google's crown, simply because this is such a resource-intense process. In following all these links, search engines build a link graph of the web, which looks a little bit like this. It shows various websites. Each website has an authority score, has a credibility score based on how many links are heading into that website and who from, and search engines also measuring which websites are linking out to who, to get a real understanding of where different websites interact across the web. Once search engines access a page, they'll take what's called a cache, so they'll essentially take an exact copy of that page and store it in one of their databases. It's a common misconception of search that when you do a search that you're actually searching the web live as it is, when in actual fact you're searching the last known copy that a search engine made of each of those pages. You'll find pages such as the BBC News homepage. It's quite an authoritative page because it's the BBC and many people link to it. And also because the content itself refreshes on every sort of 10-15 minute basis with every new breaking news story. Pages like that, search engines know to crawl and cache on a very, very regular basis to keep their indexes up to date. But you might find that, say, deeper pages on a retail site that maybe change once every 6 months will only be crawled every sort of 4, 5, 6 weeks. So even if you make a change to those pages, if search engines don't crawl and don't recache that page soon afterwards, you may see that those changes don't actually reflect in search results for a number of weeks. Once search engines have gone about the web caching all various pages they can find and storing an index of those pages, they're then ready to be retrieved when a user does a search. So when a user does a search, search engines run their natural search and paid search algorithms. This is one known area of the algorithm. Obviously, the actual true algorithm is a closely guarded secret. Google and other search engines don't want people to know exactly how to optimize and manipulate their results, as much as we put a lot of effort and resource into understanding those algorithms as best we can. This is one of the actually known areas that is published. It's known as PageRank. You may well be familiar with it. It was a tool, or rather a score, that was attributed to web pages, and rather still is by Google. It was quite important about 10 years ago. It's not so important now. It factors into about 1% of the natural search algorithm, and you can see there just how complex it is. So if you can imagine that's just 1%, you can begin to understand just how complex that whole natural search algorithm is and the process that search engines go through to deliver search results to users. What those search results actually look like, though, looks a little bit like this. You see the full search result on the left of your screen there, and a close-up of the top of the page on the right. We've highlighted a few key areas. So across the top, you'll see vertical search. By default, when you go to Google or Bing and put in a regular query, you'll see the regular search results consisting of web pages across the web, but you'll also see where Google or Bing feels relevant, universal search results blended in. So you might see, for example, images or videos where Google feels them to be relevant, or news. These are very common results to be blended in. But if you want to drill down to any of those verticals specifically, you can use those vertical search buttons across the top. Towards the right across the top is a sign-in button, and this is where personalized search comes into play. You might have heard a lot about this recently with Google launching Google+. It's very much a big step that they're trying to make, which is rather than relying on essentially anonymous endorsements from across the web via links, they want to give you a really tailored results by looking at what your friends are recommending and what you yourself have previously selected from search results. It's important, if you want an unbiased view of what a user will see when they first enter a query, that you sign out from Google if you're signed in, and you set your web history to disabled via this link up there to ensure that you're seeing fresh results that aren't personalized in any way. Across the top and to the right of the page, there are paid results, and obviously Paul's going to talk a bit more about the paid results shortly. But what you'll see in the center of the screen, just beneath any paid results, should they appear, are the organic results. And to the left of those are any search options that are applicable, such as results that are pertinent to a particular location or were retrieved a particular latency or time ago. An example of some of the universal search types that get blended into results you'll see here, such as this query for rugby has news. If you want more news, you can use the vertical link across the top to select the news tab of Google. But because in this particular case Google feels news is quite relevant for this query, it's blended it into the top here, as well as local results, given that rugby is a place too. So that's roughly how search engines work. Moving into how we actually optimize for search engines. At Greenlight, in SEO, we have a basic methodology that we break search into, which is accessibility, relevancy, and credibility. So accessibility covers how search engines access our websites and trying to make that as efficient as possible. Given that they're not users and they don't interpret content in the same way, we need to make sure that we're delivering information that not just satisfies a good user experience, but also provides search engines with the content they require in as efficient a manner as possible. Once we've looked at the accessibility of websites, we tend to look at the relevancy. So once we know search engines can access the content, we're looking at what content we are actually providing them and how relevant it is to the queries that we want to be ranking highly for. And then lastly, credibility. So this is where links really comes into play in SEO, looking at how search engines are judging the credibility of websites and what we can do to affect that judgment of credibility. Starting with accessibility. For this introduction to SEO, we've broken accessibility down into two core areas. Firstly, checking whether or not a page exists for a given keyword. It may sound very basic, but we'll see exactly why it's not always so basic in a moment. And also checking that the content on a page is accessible, given the tools that search engines are using to retrieve content isn't always the same as what you'd expect a user to have. So around the page existing for a given keyword, we've got an example here from BMW. So you'll see on the left of your slide here the ranking results for the query BMW 4x4. In the UK, this averages between 1,000 and 3,000 searches every month, depending on the time of year. And you'll notice that although BMW are paying for a placement here, they're paying for traffic via the paid search results, there isn't actually a BMW page ranking on the first page of results for their own brand term, BMW 4x4. In fact, last we checked, they're still not ranking even the top 5 pages. So why do BMW not actually rank for their brand term in this case? It's simply because if you look at their site structure, it's very model focused. So they've got an approved use, an owner's area, and a corporate sales area for users. But as far as actual cars go, they only have a sort of a model focus. So they just look at what models they have and name pages after those models. There is no category or range-based set of pages. So in this case, what we would propose to do is introduce those category pages. So for the example given, a BMW 4x4's page, which could in turn link through to their individual 4x4 cars. How that would work on the website would just be to take the existing navigation and simply add in those extra user experience options, so 4x4s, but also other ranges that users might search for, BMW coupes, saloons, hatchbacks, all these pages that they don't actually have at the moment, but people are searching for and they're not ranking for. So traffic they really should be targeting, but currently aren't. In addition to making sure that we're providing content for particular keywords, we need to ensure that the content we provide is accessible. What this means is that there are various technologies that search engines don't have access to when they're crawling the web. One example is Flash. You'll see here an example. This is pixelgallery.org. It's quite a popular online digital art museum. And this is what most users see. Given that it is an art-centric website, they've used, in this case, Adobe Flash to encode the entire site. And this provides obviously the aesthetic and experience that they want. However, for users that don't have Flash, they simply provide a message saying you need to upgrade your Flash player, and therefore that's what search engines see, given that they also don't have Flash. And then when you see what search engines have indexed, so when anyone searches Pixel Gallery, it's simply that message, their top search result, you need to upgrade your Flash player, which obviously doesn't really encourage users to click through on that result. Further to Flash, search engines cannot access content that's reliant on JavaScript either. The example here is from Currys. So Currys use a technology called Review to provide customer reviews on products. That's highlighted in red on their iPad product page there. When you click on that, it loads a JavaScript-dependent lightbox, which then contains the review content. Because it is JavaScript-dependent, that action, search engines can't actually see that content. Looking at one of their competitors, Comet on the other hand, use a service called Plugged In to provide reviews and editorial content. And what this does, it appears in line with the rest of the product page. You'll see quite a long comment product page there that's quite good from a content perspective, and the plugged in content is highlighted in red. But the problem here is that search engines can't access content that's contained within iframes, and in this case, plugged in uses an iframe to load all of their reviews and editorial content. So what search engines see is the rest of this page without that iframe, and actually once you remove that content, it's looking quite content thin. It's just a few products related to the main washing machine product and very little text that's on there. So in these cases, we have to make sure that we're providing content to search engines that obviously not only uses our target keywords, but is delivered via technology that search engines can access. Moving into keywords, target keywords, and important SEO elements, this is really where relevancy comes into play. So past accessibility, once we know that search engines can access our content, we need to make sure that we're providing relevant content. When we talk about keywords and relevant content, it's important to define what keywords are. Keywords are simply the phrases or words that users are searching for on Google or Bing or any other search engine. In doing our keyword research, there are various tools you can use. Things like WordStream and WordTracker are paid tools, but the most common to use, and is entirely free, is the Google Keyword Tool. It's quite a complex URL, but you can find it just by searching for Google Keyword Tool in Google, funnily enough. And that will provide you data around which search engines people use and how frequently they use them for various different locations across the world and from various different devices, laptops or versus mobile, for example. In addition to finding out how often users search for particular phrases, obviously that's very useful to know what terminology users are using and making sure that our site is geared towards that terminology. If you're BMW, for example, you would find out that people are searching for BMW 4x4s, and maybe you'd want to provide content accordingly. In addition to volume, it's important to take into account other factors that might affect what keywords you want to target. In this case, for example, we've included some dummy data there around some finance and banking keywords, where we've not only looked at volume, but we're looking at things like where you might currently rank for a keyword. So where your obviously immediate opportunity is. If you rank just off page 1, we saw earlier that 87% of users will click on a result on page 1. Maybe that's a good keyword to focus on to move into that higher click-through rate area. Or conversely, you might rank in position 2, but you know that ranking in position 1 will get you roughly more than double the traffic. Maybe that's a good one to focus on as well. And then look at which keywords via analytics. We can see which keywords maybe convert well or have generally a higher average order value. And obviously applying all this commercial logic together, knowing what phrases users search for, can give us quite a logical structure to targeting particular keywords over others. It's important to caveat the use of analytics data, though, with the fact that obviously if you don't rank for a keyword at present, you won't have any conversion or average order value data attributed to that keyword, so it won't always be relevant if you don't already rank for a term. Once we've established what keywords we do want to target based on all of this logic, we can then look at the important on-page elements to optimize for those keywords. The obvious is your page title. It's essentially your headline in search results. It should always be less or up to rather 68 characters, including white spaces, and should include your target keywords. As and when someone does a search on the web, if that keyword happens to appear in your title, it will be emboldened and will help to capture user attention. And ideally, along with that target keyword, you'll be using a call to action just to encourage that user to select your headline over the competing headlines either side. In addition, you'll see on that particular snippet, on that search result snippet, the text underneath. This is generally the page description, the meta description. Meta descriptions are commonly thought of as being quite important in SEO. It's worth noting, however, that they don't affect rankings, or rather they only affect rankings indirectly. So they're very good. What they are good for, as you can see in that search result image, they are the text associated with your ranking, and therefore that is what users will use when they're essentially choosing which search result to click on. And as such, they're very effective for gaining traffic to your site once the user has performed the search. Given that user satisfaction, such as bounce rate metrics and time on site metrics, are becoming more important in determining search engine results, it's quite important to make sure that we're trying to win the click as much as possible with a good meta description that doesn't missell the page. Meta descriptions themselves should be up to 155 characters in length, including white spaces, to avoid them being truncated and the message being lost. As with titles, search engines will bold keywords as and when they appear in a query, but it's important to note here that the main point is a call to action to really try and win that click. Past descriptions, the obvious one here is your actual page content, so the text that you're providing users and search engines alike on a web page. We've included Wikipedia as an example. You'll know that Wikipedia generally ranks very well across the web. While this is due in part to the fact they have a lot of links and a lot of credibility, it's also because they provide a lot of text content around subjects. Text content, the more of it that you have, you can typically include more target keywords, more natural variations of your keywords, things like plurals, and also more natural co-occurrence. We'll move on to co-occurrence shortly, but it's worth noting here, don't try and adhere to any target keyword density. It's a common SEO myth that you should have a certain percentage of words on your page as your target keyword. And you'll notice, for example, on Wikipedia, they often have articles that are several thousand words long, and their keyword density for any target keywords would be very, very low, a fraction of a percentage even, but they still rank very well. It's fairly arbitrary to aim for a specific keyword density. So moving on to co-occurrence here, what this means is that while we have our target keywords, it's important to show search engines that not only do we provide relevant content for that target keyword, but we also understand the subjects around it. Co-occurring words are words that typically appear on web pages along with that target keyword. The way to check is to prefix any keywords with a tilde, that's that squiggly line character. You'll typically see as a shift hash on your keyboard. Put that before any phrase and you'll see what Google determines to be co-occurring terms. So here for the word loans, Google's highlighted finance, loans, rates, rates on itself, and interest rates as being words that it finds commonly appears on the same pages that mention loans. And we know that if we're optimizing for the main keyword loans, if that's our target keyword, it'd be good to include these words where possible to make sure that we're as optimally relevant as possible. Finally, rich media. So things like images and videos, often you'll see them blended into universal search, but they also help your regular page rankings as well. Google wants to know that you're providing content about a subject that is available in a variety of media. Should users prefer, for example, videos or images to text, that they have those options on your web page. While search engines don't actually read the text in images, or they don't necessarily watch videos in the same way that users do, they do look at their metadata and the context in which they appear. So optimizing things like the file names of images and videos, looking at the surrounding context, and also any alt attributes for images, or descriptions, file descriptions for video files. These are where you should be applying your keyword optimization in the same way that you would content, just trying to include those keywords at least a couple of times to optimize for those terms. To summarize in terms of a list of do's and don'ts, it's ideal to establish your target keywords from the outset before you begin to produce content, on the basis that it's always easier to produce content naturally with keywords in mind than to try and shoehorn keywords in retrospectively. You should always try and naturally vary the keyword that you use, so anything like plurals around a particular keyword or any synonyms, and also to discuss the co-occurring terms around that particular keyword. Things to avoid would include duplicating content from other web pages, using the same keyword target repeatedly without looking at, say, synonyms or natural variations of that keyword, and trying to target too many subjects comprehensively on a single page. Google wants to know that when a user lands on a page, they have a comprehensive source of information on one particular subject. If you provide it on two, they might decide that an alternative page that does focus on the one that a user was interested in will provide a better experience for them. General tips for optimizing your content. In-page tabs, or show and hides as they're also known, can help with including more text content on a page where text content may be considered not ideal from an aesthetic point of view. To make sure that you use that tilde search, the squiggly line search, to find co-occurring terms to use as well. Headings can provide a very good opportunity to include keywords where they might not naturally fit within text content. To revise content in light of pertinent news, we often find that when a news story breaks, searches around that story inevitably spike, and if we have any relevant ties to some of our content, you can often find a lot of related searches that you can begin to appear for if you do revise that content in light of any pertinent news. And finally, to use your site analytics platform to find any underperforming content, and what we define as underperforming content being pages that have high bounce rates and low time on site attributes, given that search engines we know are generally looking to penalise such pages as those that provide a poor user experience. Finally, to look at linking and why links are important in SEO. Links are important simply because not only are they the way that search engines find new content, as we covered earlier, they also act as votes or endorsements of content. So when one web page links to another, it's essentially recommending that page to any users, and search engines therefore see this recommendation and take it into account. We've covered on-page content, and it's worth noting that as well as what's being said on your page through your page title and your content and your media and any copy you provide, search engines are also looking at what's being said about that particular page. So other pages on your website that link to that page, what words are they linking with and in what sort of context, and also other websites across the internet, how are they linking to that page, if they are at all, are they recommending it, are they using, what words are they using to link over with, and in what sort of context. So it's not just about the information that's on a particular page that affects how it ranks, it's about what other websites and other web pages say about that page. If we look at generally this graph that shows what it takes to rank for particular keywords, you'll see that towards the left of the graph, keywords with a higher search demand, the really popular high volume generics that drive a lot of traffic, you'll see that the top layer of this ranking model, link building, is quite an important slice. This is simply because for popular phrases you inevitably have a lot of different websites all providing relevant content, all providing potentially rich media and lots of text, and all geared towards the same target keywords. And in these cases it becomes more and more important for link building and these recommendations, these links, to really help search engines filter out which websites should rank above others, given that they're all fairly relevant to an equal degree. How links work, so this is how search engines look at links, the general anatomy of a link. This is an example using Lorem Ipsum content. They generally use an A tag to open. They then have an href attribute. This is where the link points to, so that the URL that a user will go to once they click a link. Then they have a title that gives the user a little bit more information about a link, and then the anchor text, which is the word that shows on the page that a user then clicks on to activate that link. It's worth noting here that links are essentially like signposts to both users and search engines alike. That href, that target of the link, is where the signpost is pointing, and that anchor text is the word that the signpost reads, telling users and search engines what they can find at that location. How you should therefore use links on your own website: you should link to related pages wherever appropriate. So whenever you have a page on one subject, if you have related pages related to that subject elsewhere on the site, try to link over to those to create a hub of information. Search engines typically like it when you can provide not just a single page covering a subject, but pages covering closely related subjects that users can then find deeper information for on your site. In addition, as with anything in SEO, don't go over the top. Don't link every other word in an article over to a different related page. Try to think of only sort of the top 3 or 4 links within any article to use, because you need to think of your user experience here. And search engines are ever increasingly trying to align their results with a positive user experience. Try to link to any one page once from any other given page. So if you have an article, try to link to a related page one time rather than the 3 or 4 times that page's target keywords might arise. Think about context. So links that are within content typically provide more value than links that aren't, simply because they have the context of the wider text around them. And finally, if a link is marginalized in terms of location, it will be less effective for SEO. It used to be the case 5-10 years ago that you could include links in the footer of your website and they'd be just as valuable recommendations as links in your main content or in your main navigation. But naturally, search engines are looking at, when they go to a website, what user journey is that website promoting? What pages is it prominently linking to via the main navigation or the top of the page? Or the main content provided on that page. If a website doesn't wish to prominently promote a web page and doesn't link to it prominently, search engines will respond by giving that link less credibility. A popular example, and a very easy example for just how important links are, would be to search for click here in Google. And if you do that, what you'll see is the Adobe Acrobat Reader download page ranking in number 1. This is despite the fact you'll see that the page title doesn't include click here, nor do the words on the page. However, it ranks simply because so many websites across the web link to that web page with the anchor text, click here to download Acrobat Reader. Essentially what search engines are seeing here is, although the page doesn't have the word click here, There are so many signposts, if you will, out there recommending this page and using the term click here on their signpost when pointing to it, and that causes that page to rank first for click here. So that's a really good example for just the importance of links in SEO. In terms of getting links, the obvious ways are to create sort of rich media. These are examples that we create for clients. Things like widgets that provide useful functionality for users, or interactive banners, or infographics are obvious examples. Rich media like videos as well. Anything that really gets the user wanting to share information across the web and link naturally back to your website are obvious examples to try and gain links across the web and improve your credibility and search engine rankings thusly. That concludes the SEO portion of today. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Paul.
Thank you, Jack. So I'm going to give you guys a quick introduction to paid search, and roughly the agenda that we'll cover over the next 20 minutes. We'll look at the search engine results page overview, what is paid search, quality score, what's it all about, some other types of quality score outside of Google's quality score, building a paid search strategy, and looking at things like match types and how best to optimize them. So I won't spend too much time on this one because Jack has already covered it, but basically the middle to lower section of the search results page is generally natural search, with the top section and the right section all paid search listings. So what is paid search? Essentially, paid search is having advertisements appearing on the top of the search engine results pages and also on contextual networks. It's about having an ad show when people are looking for your service, and you only pay when someone clicks on your ad based on a cost per click model. So it's taking a different approach to advertising. So I suppose traditionally, if you were putting an ad in a newspaper, you would expect to maybe, for everybody who sees the ad, maybe 5–10% of those people are your target audience. But the beauty with paid search is that people are already searching for a product or for a service that you operate in. So they're already expressing an interest in what you're doing. So it's about appearing against queries that are relevant to your business and making the most of that traffic. So what are the main components of paid search? So obviously one of the biggest parts of it are keywords. Like these are the keywords that are relevant to you as an advertiser, keywords that people will search for your products, for your services, keywords that you want to appear on and against with your ad copy. They need to be highly relevant to you as a business. You don't want to appear, if you're selling tennis shoes, you don't want to appear for a search on umbrellas, because that traffic will not necessarily be what you want to end up in a sale. And the fundamental to a PPC campaign, and they can be expensive, so you need to make sure you're choosing these keywords as wisely and as best you possibly can to make the most for your goals as an advertiser. Obviously, ad copy is another very important part of what you do. So the ad copy is the piece of ad that will appear against the searches that someone types into Google or other search engines. It needs to be compelling. It needs to stand out against the competition. It's your window to that world. It's carrying the message of your brand. So you need to make sure that it's saying what you want, that it fits with who you are, and that it's encouraging people to click on your ad to do what you want them to do when they come through to your landing page. That leads us on to the next part of what's important in paid search, and that's the landing page. You've done the first bit. You've appeared for a search that's relevant to your business. Someone's clicked and engaged with you on your ad, and they now come to your website. So you want to make sure that the journey they have when they land on your landing page is as relevant to the search term they put in, to the reason why they clicked on their ad, that they find very simply and very easily what they want on the landing pages. And again, similar to the ad copy, that the ad copy tells them what they need to do, shows them where they need to go, and gets you the right results as an advertiser. And fourthly, bidding and budgets. So obviously when someone clicks on your ad, you pay a certain fee, and it's important to keep an eye on what you're bidding at per keyword, and also what you're willing to invest in on a daily basis in terms of your investment into paid search. You need to re-examine these bids on a daily basis. If the search is a fluid place, you've new competitors coming in all the time, people bidding more aggressively, which can affect what you're paying on a cost per click basis. So it's critical to monitor these bids and see how much you're paying for the keywords, and also what traffic is coming against those keywords, and then consequently what revenue you're getting for that cost per click. Also, an important part of your bids, it determines exactly where you appear in the listing. So there's a big difference in performance from appearing first, third, or fifth on the search results page. So a very, very important part of paid search advertising and determining what you pay per click is Google's quality score. What you see on screen now is a definition from Google about quality score. It's essentially a dynamic measure assigned to each of your keywords. It's a factor that can determine your cost per click, your relevancy, and thus your overall efficiency from paid search advertising. So I think for those of you on the phone, I think to understand quality score would be a great takeaway from today's call, because it really does affect how how your account can live and progress, and at the end of the day, what your efficiency and what your return on investment is from your paid search advertising. So what are the elements of quality score? So we know roughly there are between 100 to 200 different factors that make up the number that we see in an account for quality score. Google will not share all these with us, but we have a pretty good idea about what, say, 7 to 10 of those factors are, and we know that those 7 to 10 factors can make up to 60 or 70% of how quality score is calculated. So first one we're going to talk about today is the landing page. Touching on what I've already said, the landing page needs to be very relevant for the user. It needs to link back to what was said in the ad copy in the search results page, and that then needs to link back to the keyword that the user entered into Google. If that relevancy link is not maintained from keyword to ad copy to landing page, the customer loses that mental link for what they were looking for. And Google knows this. If the relevancy is not there, the customer will not come back to Google, and therefore they lose the traffic. So it's not a good overall user experience. So you need to make sure your landing page is relevant, that the content on that landing page is original and is refreshed every now and again. And again, from a user perspective, it's easy to get around that page and find what I want. It's also very important from a quality score perspective that your page loads within a certain period of time. Generally, anything above 3 seconds can have a negative effect on your quality score, which obviously has an effect on what you pay on a cost per click basis. Historical performance is very, very important. So Google will look at the historical performance of your account on a constant basis to see how are you doing as an advertiser. Are you a positive? Do you have high CTRs? Do people engage with your ads when they appear in the search engine? And if that happens, Google will reward you with a positive quality score, which then will have a knock-on effect on your cost per click. So it's very important to keep an eye on your CTRs and understand exactly how that's performing from a keyword perspective and an ad copy point of view. There are other relevancy factors that we know go into the mix, things like bounce rates. Like I said before, the frequency with your landing page content is changed. Things like having a privacy policy on your web page also has a positive effect, and also visibility in your budget caps as well. So there's a whole lot of factors that go in that also can dictate what happens with quality score. A big part of it, again, is your ad relevancy. So again, the link between the search term that's been entered into Google and what you're saying in your ad copy. Ideally, it's great to have the keyword that someone has searched for appearing in your ad. So there's a clear mental link, and that again sends a signal to Google to say this is a good quality advertiser and will generally result in a strong CTR, which is another signal to Google to say it's going to give them a good quality score. Keyword relevancy, again, super, super important, that this relates to the ad copy, the landing page, the business of who you are, and again, that can have a positive impact on CTR, which will obviously help your quality score. CTR is probably the biggest part of what dictates and determines quality score. Again, it's a simple factor that Google can have a look at and say, again, if you have high CTRs, and generally that's above 2-3%, you are a strong advertiser, you are performing well, you're giving customers what they want when they search for something in Google, and therefore engaging with them properly and offering them relevant content. So it's probably the biggest factor, as I said. It's probably the biggest key thing to keep an eye on when you want to determine your quality score. So the impact of quality score is very severe when it comes to predominantly your cost per click. A high quality score, as I said before, will basically give you a lower cost per click, and inversely a low quality score will drive up your cost per click. So if you're an advertiser that's very focused on the return on investment, you want to make sure you have a good user experience, but you also want to make sure that your account is as efficient as it possibly can from a quality score perspective. It can also influence exactly where your ad appears on the search results pages, because combined with CPC and your quality score, that determines your position in the search results pages. First page bid estimates. So when you create a new account or you put some new keywords into an account, Google wants to try and help you understand what you need to pay to appear on the first page. And a big part of how Google understands that is to look at what your quality score is. Generally, if your quality score is high across your account, Google will reward you with that and give you a low cost per bid so you can appear on the first page and try and engage new users and prove your case that you're a solid advertiser and you can deliver strong CTRs. Quality score also determines your eligibility to show in the auction. So if you have a very low quality score account that's historically performed badly, Google may not even enter you in the auction sometimes. So you need to maintain this to ensure that you are getting visibility in every possible search that's relevant to your business. And as I said before, it determines your ad position. So bid and quality score determine where you appear in terms of the search results pages. So if it's important for you to dominate certain keywords and appear in the top position, you want to make sure your quality score is as good as it possibly can to make sure you're not paying over the odds on a cost per click basis. So I've touched on this before. It's a dynamically changing number quality score. It's constantly moving and changing based on every search. Sometimes people will tell you, sometimes it's over a period of hours. But really is it's an important metric to keep an eye on, and to make sure that you're looking at your biz, looking at your quality score on a daily to weekly basis to make sure you are where you should be, and looking at ways to basically maintain that. In terms of optimizing quality score, you need to be looking at, so are your keywords in your ad copy as relevant as they possibly can be? Are those keywords appearing in the ad copy? Are your landing pages as correct as they possibly can be for those keywords in your account? Look at adding negative keywords by running search query reports across Google and Yahoo and MSN. You could be appearing for searches that are not 100% relevant for you as a business. So by running these search query reports, you can find keywords that can negative match and ensure you don't appear for certain phrases. So for example, it's a bad example, if I was doing Greenlight's paid search advertising, I wouldn't want to appear for someone searching for I hate Greenlight, so I would negative match the word hate. If you reduce your impressions, you drive your CTRs, that affects your quality score. So there are other quality scores out there. Yahoo has its own version of quality score. It's called Index Score, which is essentially CTR. Facebook has what's called Efficiency True Rate, which is again effectively CTR. And also on contextual networks like the Google Display Network, there is a form of quality score, but it differs from that of search. With the contextual networks, it's much more about how the ad fits with the content of the site. So it is evaluated slightly differently. But again, it has the same effect. It will drive up your cost per click if it's not as healthy as it possibly can be. So moving on to the next couple of slides. So building a paid search campaign, what's important to that and what do you need to consider? So starting off really, the first step is to look at your website and know your business. It's to look at how is your website laid out and trying to mimic that structure as best you possibly can in your AdWords account. So you would look at product setups and group them in a certain way, service setups in a certain way, and then think about generic terms as well that people might not necessarily know your business, but it's a good way to find your business on through search. And relevancy is the key word. You need to make sure that you group things in the same way they're relevant from a user's mind in terms of how they search, and also relevance from how you structure your business online. So the first part of it obviously is keywords. We've touched on some of this already, but they need to make sure that they form the basis of your campaign, that they're relevant to who you are. So they need to reflect all your services, all your products, your brand terms, cover as many combination of specific niche terms, long tail and short tail. So we know over the last few years that people are searching a lot more and generally in the path to purchase. They're using generic terms to start the conversation, but will finish off on a really tight model name. For example, you see on the slide Nokia 6230. So it's important to cover the full breadth of searches that may possibly lead to or involve the path to conversion. So think about the full breadth of the path to conversion. Think about all the different spelling variations of those keywords, singular and plural variations. If you're a hotelier, for example, think about the geographical variations of where you might have a hotel or a guest house. And again, simple term, relevancy all the way through. It goes through everything you do online in terms of SEO and paid search. Relevancy is absolutely key. And be as creative as you possibly can. Yes, you're limited in terms of the amount of characters you can say in your ad copy, for example, but try and think out of the box in terms of what you say and the keywords you choose to appear on. And test constantly as well. These are some of the tools that we would use to find keywords. So obviously we'd use Google's keyword tool, your own website, but also some other good tools out there that you can maybe use yourselves. Fat Fingers, for example, is a very good tool for finding misspells. Moving on to ad copy. So as I touched on before, ad copy is probably it's your window to the world. You need to make sure that you reflect your brand and what you're saying, that the ad copy tells the customer what to do. Are you selling something? Are you incentivizing them to click? Make sure there's a clear call to action in what you're saying in your ad copy, and that it's as relevant as possible to the keyword that someone has searched for and to the landing page that the person will appear on. And do not forget your competition. Paid search is in a massively competitive space. It's getting more competitive every day. So it's very important to keep an eye on who is appearing on your terms, be it brand, be it generic, be it product, and try and think differently to them. Give the user different options to why they should be clicking your ad. Just to give you an idea, if you don't already know, so there's different restrictions in terms of the amount of characters you can use across the different search engines. So Google is 25 in the headline, 35 for the rest of the lines you have in your ad copy, and 40 for Yahoo, and slightly less for MSN, although that will change probably with the Search Alliance coming on board shortly. I've talked about what to do. Some things you cannot do in terms of what Google and the other search engines will have in terms of policies. Do not use inappropriate languages. Don't lie. You're not allowed to use superlatives, so you cannot say we're the best, we're the cheapest. Avoid overcapitalization. And trademarks can be an issue that probably deserves its own separate webinar. So I suppose another part, and again, an essential key part of building a good paid search campaign is choosing the right landing pages. Again, relevancy, I've said this word so many times, is very, very important. You need to make sure that when a person clicks on the ad, they find the page they want. It tells them what to do. It's simple. It's a good user experience. It's easy for me to buy something or to fill out a form or to contact you or whatever you want that page to do. So make it as simple as you possibly can. Think about your page like your store. You want your store to be laid out as best as it possibly can, for it to be as easy for someone to find the product they want. That needs to apply the same way to the landing page that someone goes to once they've clicked on a paid search ad. I think we've touched on these. Yeah, and another key point actually as well is not make sure the person finds what they want within 2 clicks. Once you go past 2 clicks, it's a big no-no for Google. It's a bad user experience, and that person probably won't come back. Do not create obstacles. Make it as simple as it possibly can, and think about it from a relevance point of view again. So part of choosing your keywords and setting up your account is to understand how do you deploy match types. So traditionally, there's been 4 key match types across Google, and some of these also transfer across to MSN, less so Yahoo. Those 4 types are broad match, phrase match, exact match, and negative match. And when you're rolling out your account, you can pretty much choose these match types by choosing the different parentheses and punctuation that you see here on the slide. So the first one we'll talk about is broad match. It does exactly what it says on the tin. Broad match will allow you to appear for as many possible variations of the keyword that you choose around that term. So the example you see here is tennis shoes. So if we had the keyword tennis shoes in our account, we could appear for searches on tennis shoes, buy tennis shoes photos, running shoes, potentially tennis balls, tennis rackets. It's about trying to give you as much breadth on that possible keyword that you can achieve. Now, there are some positives and some negatives to this. Positively, if you're a new advertiser, you can grow your account quite quickly. You can mine for new keywords, find keywords you never even thought about. But negatively wise, it can spend your budget quite aggressively. You may not appear for searches that you feel are relevant for your business. So when you roll out broad match, it's important to make sure you have a strong negative keyword list to minimize any wasted spend or any damage to your brand. Moving on to phrase match. Again, phrase match is a step back from exposure in terms of the amount of searches you can appear from. Take the example we have here, tennis shoes. You will only appear when the phrase tennis shoes appears in the search term. So we will appear for red tennis shoes, buy tennis shoes photo, but we will not appear for shoes for tennis or tennis shoes. So it needs to be exactly as it is in the inverted commas. Again, a good way to grow an account, but limits your exposure. An exact match is exactly what the search term is. So tennis shoes, we would only ever appear for the keyword tennis shoes. So this becomes very important for the likes of your brand terms, high volume generic terms that are important to you as a business, terms that have a lot of traffic as well. So you generally, the best practice I would say is to have a mix of broad and exact keywords in your account to make sure you're getting enough exposure, but that you can also still manage your budget effectively. And also negative match, I mentioned this before in terms of search query reports. When you're using the likes of broad match and phrase match, you don't always know exactly what search term you've appeared for until you've run your search query report. So it's important to make sure you're ensuring you do not appear for irrelevant searches. And the best way to do that is by adding negative keywords to your account. These appear in the search query report. For an example, you can see here, if we do not sell second-hand tennis shoes, we don't want to appear for the word used or second-hand. So again, it can minimize the amount of searches that we appear for, keep us relevant, make sure our CTR stays good, and keep our cost per click low. And lastly, last year roughly, Google brought in a new match type called broad match modifier, which we have advocated quite a bit in the paid search team at Greenlight. It's essentially a halfway house between phrase match and broad match. So it allows you to get a certain level of exposure to grow your account, but without having the negative side of broad match in terms of irrelevant searches or spending your budget a bit too aggressively. So this is essentially based on appearing for misspells, synaptic differences or syntax differences of keywords, different variations of the keyword, but without the negative side of broad match. So again, we would advocate this match type quite a bit across our clients. And that brings us to an end of the paid search presentation. Any questions from anybody out there, from either SEO or PPC, from myself or Jack?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to register for a question, you may press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone, or you may use the chat feature located in the lower left corner of your screen. Sorry, at this time we have no questions on the phone lines.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it will be possible to get a copy of the slides. Yeah, not a problem. What? So we have a question here from Andrew Ducker. What about the words that appear in the tab at the top of a web page? I'm not too sure what you're referring to there, Andrew. Jack?
In terms of the tab at the top of a web page, so these would be when we did the SEO type. So if you refer to your tab, I'm going to assume here what you mean is when you're on Firefox or Chrome or Internet Explorer, you have tabs for different windows that you're browsing on, and the words that appear at the top are what we covered in the SEO introduction as the page titles. So these are also your headlines in your search results. They're also what appear at the top of the browser or the top of your tab. That's governed by that title tag we covered earlier.
Thanks, Andrew.
So it's essentially the same rules. In terms of search, it needs to be under 68 characters, including white spaces, and include your core keywords. What you really want to optimize them for are those search headlines, not particularly what they will read when they're at the top of the tab.
So then we have another question from Chris Todd, which is, how do broad keywords differ in SEO and PPC campaigns?
So in terms of SEO, there isn't any exact phrase or broad match per se. I mean, obviously, when we're looking at keywords to target, we do take into account, say, for example, the exact volume of a keyword, and we'll also take into account the phrase and broad match volumes just to see how much what we call long tail there is. How we define long tail is phrases that are not searched for very often on a unique basis, on a one-by-one basis, but collectively can be quite significant. What you want to do in SEO terms is make sure that you target the right core phrase and ensure that you include what we spoke about earlier, plenty of content around that subject to ensure that any long tail or rather broad match variations you would naturally appear for in SEO as well. That's best done via plenty of content and making sure that you've got a credible website with links coming into your page.
Thank you, Jack. From a PPC perspective, I think, Chris, it's simply, you can choose as a match type basically to ensure that you get the broadest possible coverage you have on those keywords and to grow your account. It's much more simpler than PPC. You literally just opt in and you're good to go. But it's important when you do that to make sure you have the right budget there, that it's not spending too much money, and that those keywords are relevant for you as an advertiser. We have another question from David Oates. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. How do you find out what is the Google quality score for your website, and how does that compare to competitors? It's a very hard thing to do, David. In your accounts, if you look at each keyword, there is a box where if you highlight that, it will tell you what the quality score is for that keyword. It's essentially what the quality score is for your account, but if you look at the different ways that score breaks down, it'll tell you whether your keyword is good, whether your ad copy is good, or whether your website is good. So that's probably the best way I can tell you to have a look in that. And if there's a problem in there, Google will say your landing page quality is poor, and therefore you know that's an area you need to go away and have a look at. It's very hard to find what that is and how that compares to competitors, but it's worth sometimes speaking to your Google rep to get an indication of that. Alexander, yes, we can send you the presentation, not a problem at all. I think if there's no more questions, we might just wrap it up there. Any last questions? Nope. Great. No problem, Alex.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude today's conference call. We thank you for your participation and ask that you please disconnect your lines.